Today on Slinging Paint, it is time for the war in Christmas Village. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome back to our next installment of the war in Christmas Village. So far, I've been having a ton of fun with this little set. Excuse me, you'll have to apologize. I have to apologize. The winter weather has been kind of kicking the crap out of me, and I've excuse me, have a small coughing issue. Anyway, I'm making great leaps and bounds on Santa, Krampus, Saint Nick, and I even managed to get the reindeer looking half decent, or at least decent enough that I'm happy with them. Let's see if we can get you a look at the reindeer here. Oh, he's not too bad. Kind of see his details. Google images are sometimes your best friend, but let's keep moving on and seeing what we can do, shall we? I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving for those friends of ours that are in the States, and hope everybody's gearing up for Christmas, because I know that's just in a few weeks. Let's see if we can give you an idea of how Santa's coming along. Okay. Old Kris Kringle looks like he's ready to get on there and maybe chop you up a cord of wood for your fireplace, or maybe take down one of the evil snowmen. I don't know, maybe they're not evil, maybe they're just snowmen. I don't know. Either way, we are ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some of the gold on the old saint here. Now, I do have to give a shout out to the Skellington Ghost, who has been keeping me on the short and narrow as far as to what actually is Christmas lore and what isn't Christmas lore. And apparently, this fella right here is not a wise man, as was stated in the last video. I was corrected by somebody else as well, but is in fact the original Saint Nick. So, thank you for keeping me honest, thank you for keeping me on my toes, and thank you for giving me the correct information. If there's anything else that I have misspoke about as far as this set goes, please feel free to leave me a little message in the comments, or we will read them. We do read them, and they do get passed on to me if I don't catch them. So thank you once again. Well, it's since we're kind of talking, since he's kind of been the focal point right at the moment, let's kind of continue on with him and see what we can get done. Now, I do know very, very little about the actual history of Saint Nick and everything like that, and I would love for those of us out there who actually watch the videos, which, by the way, thank you, to help me get some insight on these guys. I mean, we kind of know Santa Claus. You know, we know that we kind of know what he's all about. But what about some of the more for those of us in the Western society, anyway, some of the less mainstream, like this fella right here, or even Krampus. Krampus, if I'm not mistaken, is Germanic in origin. And again, if I'm wrong, I don't mind being wrong at all. I don't mind being corrected if the fact that I am wrong. Well, this might not be exactly traditional as far as what he wore and what he, you know, his colors might be, but this is kind of my interpretation, and I like it. So let's just go with it. Again, if you get your set, or when you get your set, paint them however you choose. So we put some gold on his staff, and we put some gold on the cross on his hat there. Haven't quite decided if I'm going to go with a white beard, if I'm going to leave it black. I kind of like the way it looks black, but perhaps traditionally he has the white beard, and that's kind of the idea behind Santa Claus. Santa Claus is, kind of a takeoff of Saint Nick. So that's kind of why I decided to do the reds for old Saint Nick. Pretty cool, huh? I think so too. Now, I haven't gotten much farther with the snowmen. I've kind of put the snowmen off to the side. But I did do some of the wood on the shielding and wood on the haft of the weapons. But that's really as far as I've gone. I haven't done anything with the coal buttons or the eyes or the wood arms or anything like that. I haven't really done too much more with them. But that's okay. They're fast. They'll paint up quick. Now, like I said, the reindeer, he was actually the one I was the most worried about. So he was the one that I kind of put off doing the most. But he's not turning out half bad, I think. Well, let's see. My brushes are all in a disarray because I've been doing funny stuff. Alright. Now for Krampus, it looks like Krampus's sack that he has here is made out of, could be anything. Could be stitched out of skin, could be stitched out of a myriad of different details. But you know what? I'm going to go just a little bit macabre. And I think I'm going to do skin, because why not? Well, what do you think? The great thing is that you can paint the skin in whatever tones you want. So I mean, I'm going to do a lot of Caucasian skin tones, maybe tan skin tones. But I could also, go ahead and just do a whole bunch, do a whole swack load of different kinds. Because why not? These are my miniatures, and I'm going to paint them how I see fit. Maybe I'll make a combination of skin and fabric. Who knows? You can kind of see I've started doing the patchwork for the skin. It's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of comes together. But in the meantime, what we're going to do actually is we're going to go back and we're going to start picking out and highlighting maybe the cloth that makes up his cape and his tabard. You know, so we have him in red, kind of mirror Santa Claus. So knowing that, we'll go back to our base color of corn red. Now again, all of the paints that I use are Citadel paints. But you feel free to use whatever painting system, whatever paints you feel most comfortable using. See, I am very comfortable using the Citadel range. Even though they've kind of changed the formulas and changed the colors over the years, I am still very much a Citadel person. I know their paint systems, I know their paints, I know kind of how their paint works. And that's one of the things that you have to figure out yourself. Is what works for you. What painting system, what brand of paints works for you. I know people who swear up and down by the Vallejo system. And that's cool. I know other people who are like me, who are like, nope, it's Citadel all the way. Citadel or nothing, because we know that system. Now, there is nothing wrong with learning a different painting system, learning a different brand of paints. It helps expand your color palette, helps expand your ability to just adapt. I mean, what if you can't find a color in the Citadel range because I just don't make that color, but they make that color in the Vallejo paints, or they make those paint, in the Army Painter paints or something like that. Or you can custom mix your own paint. It's really, again, up to you. And that's okay. So don't ever let anybody give you any grief or something because you use a different paint system. I mean, they might go like, well, why do you use those paints? Because they're awesome, and I know that system. Don't worry about it. Use whatever you're comfortable with. Now, one of the things that I do want to caution you about, though, is if you decide that you want to use crafting paint, say, I don't know, I've heard the term apple barrel passed around. I don't know that brand, but I mean, you can use regular craft paints if you want to. You just have to worry about how thick they are. You have to worry about how you thin them, where you thin them. I mean, they're not specifically designed for miniatures. Doesn't mean they're not going to work for you. You just have to be careful. That's all. You might find that these craft paints that you get from Michaels or whatever are the bomb. You might find that, hey, these are actually working for me, and they're working really, really well. And you turn out some absolutely spectacular and fine-looking miniatures. Yeah. Again, do whatever works for you. Don't let anybody say just because you use this style of brush or that style of paint or whatever that you're doing it wrong. That should be the least of your worries, the least of your concerns. Your biggest concern should be, am I happy with what I've done? If not, where do I need to improve? What do I need to improve? And don't be afraid to reach out to the community. You know, go to your local gaming store, go to your local games workshop, go to your local brick and mortar, wherever you pick up games. Maybe they actually have a painting night. You know, don't be afraid to ask the guys. Don't be afraid to ask anybody who's painting. Women, men, doesn't matter. We are a very inclusive community. And that's the one thing that I absolutely love about it. If I didn't ask questions, if I didn't say, hey, that is a cool effect, how do you do that? I'd still be stuck going, like not knowing how to shade, not knowing how to highlight. But I have been extremely blessed by living near a games workshop and living near other brick and mortar gaming stores that have a fantastic and very inclusive community. That if I have questions, concerns, or if I'm just like, hey, that was cool, how did you do that? They were more than willing to help. Like for instance, one of the one of the tips that I've learned was how to do a yellow. Now, this is using an old Games Workshop system that actually doesn't exist anymore. Thankfully, I actually still have some viable paints that I can still do this. But it was how to paint a very gold yellow. And you took elf flesh from the Citadel range, which actually doesn't exist anymore. So, unfortunately, it's hard to replicate these days because it just doesn't work. And yellow ink, again, these just don't exist. Citadel canceled those colors. They canceled those particular those particular colors, those particular ways to make their colors even too. They don't do inks anymore. They do what are called glazes or washes. But one guy did an entire Imperial Fists Space Marine army using this technique, and what he did is he would color, or he would paint his entire army with the elf flesh and make it a nice, good, solid color, and then he would go back and literally just brush. No thinning, no anything. Just take the yellow ink and then just brush it straight on top, and it turned to this beautiful, beautiful golden yellow. And he was very eager to show off how he painted such a big army in such a small amount of time. And I've taken that particular little piece of knowledge, and I've turned it around and I've used it on my army where I need yellow, and it produces this fantastic yellow. And we'll actually go into that in a later video, maybe when I get to some actual Games Workshop stuff. I'll show you what I mean by doing this. And now I'm trying to find a different way to not necessarily recreate the yellow color, but recreate the yellow color. And I found a couple of different ways to do it. So we'll go over some ways to do yellows. Yellows are one of the hardest colors to do because it has one of the thinnest amount of pigments in the paint. So you can do it over a white, but I know how to do it over a black. It's all good. So with these guys right here, anyway, with the War on Christmas Village, I'm actually waiting for some inks or some washes to dry. We're not quite ready yet to get back in on the Saint Nick fella, and that's okay. In the meantime, we'll just keep with Krampus. We'll keep doing up the red. Make sure that you put stuff on a palette. Thin your paints. And just have a good and easy time doing it. When you're doing folds of a cloak or something like that, what you want to do is you want to do your base color. You want to do a wash over it to help it sit in the recesses, to help create shadow and shade. And then you go back in with your base color, and you start hitting the tops of the folds. You kind of work the paint down into the folds. Start at the top, or start at the top of the fold, like the highest point of the fold. And just kind of work yourself out and down. Then go to your next color. And then you're going to still start at the top of the folds, but you're not going to go down quite as far into the fold as you did with the last color. And then when you get to the tippy top highlight, it's literally going to be just along the crests. And it will give it that nice crisp fold. I am looking into getting a better camera system so we can actually see, so I can actually give you a better idea of what I paint and how I paint. So you can actually see what I'm doing, because just doing this right here doesn't give you an idea at all how the folds are turning out. What I'm also going to try and do is maybe start a gallery that'll be at the end of my videos. So even though you have a hard time seeing it on the video as I'm doing it right now, you can take a look at the pictures afterwards, and you can kind of see the base, the shade, the rebase, the highlight, and the last highlight. And also water down your paints too. Don't be afraid to water them down and make several thin coats. I mean, to base coat out, maybe 2 coats, 2 nice even coats. When you get into layering, multiple thin coats. Kind of what you want to do. Well, maybe if I'm a good boy, maybe Santa will bring me a new camera system for Christmas. I don't know. Anyway, one of the colors that I'm really good with is red. So for me, working up a red cloak, it's just another day. You know? Again, can't really, you can kind of see the layers of highlights that are going on. And anyway, tune in again shortly. I'll tune in again in about a week or so, and hopefully we'll be farther along on our journey through the winter wonderland that is Christmas Village, and well, that was not terrible smart, was it? I got paint all over my fingers and paint all over my brush cover. Well, that's okay. It all dries and rubs off anyway. Until then, paint safe. And that's it from the Paint Slinger.